You know, I was expecting Ready Player One would be a pop culture orgy. I mean, it's to be expected with all the promotional material and different posters. But holy shit, I wasn't expecting it to be this good. Without a doubt, Ready Player One is one of the best films of the year. But it's one of the best films for a very specific reason. And here's why. Yo, what is up everybody? And before we get into this, make sure to hit subscribe. Ready Player One is, in a word, stunning. Everything about it is made to impress, and it sure as hell does so. Its execution isn't anything amazing, but it doesn't need to wow you with some amazing shots because its main draw is, and always was, the nostalgia. Which is what I want to talk about first, instead of going straight into my usual shtick about what made the movie suck or made it great. I want to really hammer home to you guys how big of a factor the nostalgia was for this movie. Without a doubt, Ready Player One is a movie for geeks and gamers. It's based on the book of the same name, but the film is targeted at those groups more so than the general audience. This isn't to say it panders, it definitely doesn't, and those who aren't gamers or geeks will be left out. I personally think anyone who watches this movie will like it, so long as they understand it's just meant to be a fun film. It has a lot of references to other stuff in pop culture, but it doesn't have anything where if you take a closer look, you're gonna find some secret meaning to it. But the difference between someone being like, oh yeah, that was alright, pretty fun, and someone being absolutely elated, like I was, as they're walking out of the theater, is based on how into popular culture and gaming and, well, I mean, just nerdy shit in general. And I'm not trying to say, oh, you suck because you don't really get the feels that you don't like Halo. I'm just being honest. This film made me want to see it again, not because it did anything stunning cinematography-wise, or it had acting talent off the charts. It was just everything I ever dreamed about seeing in theaters that didn't have Michael Bay's name attached to it. So if you have no interest in pop culture outside of video games and TV, will you like it? Yeah, most likely. This movie is a geek's wet dream, and I really want to be unbiased with all my reviews, especially this one, and be objective like I try to do with all of them, and separate what I like from what made it a good movie, and I just can't. I'm not gonna act like I can, because the reality of it is that however good this movie is determined entirely by your own personality and interests. For someone like me, this was all I'd ever wanted, like I said. Mortal Kombat characters, yes. Halo Spartans, yes. Racer, yes. Iron Giant, yes. Mecha shit, yes! But that just won't be the case for everyone. I know it won't. As good of a movie this was for me, not everyone who sees it is going to walk away and talk their friend's ear off at 2 AM about why driving a mecha in VR would not just be the coolest thing ever, but also the peak of human achievement. Ready Player One, as much as it may be a gamer's wet dream, that's pretty much all it is. It looks good, it has an okay plot, and doesn't waste much time on any fluff. It does use its 2-hour, 20-minute runtime to its advantage and pulls it off pretty good, but it's nothing to write home about unless your dream is 12 Halo Spartans shooting at spider tanks. To surmise, nostalgia is what makes this movie really enjoyable and fun to watch. Even if you aren't a fan of pop culture, chances are this will trigger some sort of nostalgic feeling in you, and you're going to really enjoy this movie. And in a sense, that's the true art of Ready Player One. It makes basically everyone enjoy it by triggering that feeling in you. But as fun as it is to talk about nostalgia and how artful this film is and the way it uses it, it's time to get into how actually good the movie really is. For those of you that didn't know, all the CGI that was used in Ready Player One was done using motion capture. The same stuff that Andy Serkis uses in, like, all of his films. I think literally all of them except for Black Panther. And since that's essentially still acting, I'm going to judge it as such. So I do, on one hand, want to praise the cast heavily for their acting skill in all the CGI scenes, which I'd say take up a good 70% of the runtime, give or take. But on the other hand, as good as it was, that 30% in the real world was really lackluster. It wasn't heinous, but it's not the same level between the two at all. So I'm kind of split. It was good acting, definitely, but underwhelming when they were in the real world. For a movie like this, I feel like all that matters is that it was believable, and it was. I just wish it had been more constant throughout. As I said, Ready Player One is based on a book, but since I haven't read the book, I'm judging the movie solely on its plot, which is alright. Same as the acting, it has some highlights, but in general, it's not very unique. It's just well done. In a sense, it reminds me of Black Panther. Both had story structures that were very generic, but both did them different than usual. However, I'd argue Black Panther did a better job at taking a generic plot and making it seem new. Ready Player One's biggest change is that it doesn't waste time on needless backstory like many films revolving around MacGuffins do. Outside of the nostalgia, Ready Player One's second biggest selling point for why it's a good movie is the CGI, which is some of the most advanced and heavily used I've ever seen. Plenty of other movies have had CGI of this caliber, with some surpassing it, but not many have it in the surplus that this movie does. And considering the motion capture CGI of Rogue One, seriously, look at this shit. Who signed off on this? Why not just introduce Thrawn to the big screen? Leia is excusable since it's just meant to tie into episode 4, but okay, I'm getting sidetracked. My point is the mocap in Ready Player One is better. Even TJ Miller is better than the guy they got to play Tarkin, and they have to do more screen time for TJ. Now, I think the biggest reason Ready Player One CGI is so much better in terms of realism and facial features is due to two things. One, Ready Player One makes it very clear that this is a video game world and makes a point to show people can play as any avatar they want, from Harley Quinn to Goro, from Tracer to Master Chief, so it saves itself from having to worry about replicating the look of the rest of the cast in the CGI world of the Oasis. 2. The Uncanny Valley. Ready Player One completely avoids having to replicate actors, as I said above, but it goes one step further. All of the actors' characters are completely unrealistic. Odd skin hues, weird builds, and inhuman facial features allowed them to not even have to deal with getting to a point where Tarkin looks so close to being human, but you can clearly tell he isn't, and that he's dead. It was my biggest worry for Ready Player One, that it did fall victim, as so many other films had, to the Uncanny Valley. And while this isn't a testament to the tech used in Ready Player One, since they, to the best of my knowledge, used the same software as Rogue One, it was just used intelligently. Furthermore, from what I understand, the book did have avatars of players look like characters and less realistic, so it did have an advantage, but they could have changed it. They didn't, and it worked out really well for them. Nothing special, it's Spielberg, so it's cool and shot well, but as with most things about this movie, not overwhelmingly impressive. It's just there. Ready Player One is a good movie. It's directed towards an audience that grew up playing video games, but it isn't alienating to those who didn't. It's less enjoyable, yes, but still a good movie. Realistically, Ready Player One deserves probably an 8 out of 10. It's good, fun, and makes excellent use of the technology at its disposal. But I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 because despite this review definitely being impacted by my enjoyment of the film and its references to stuff like Terminator, I feel like that's how this movie is meant to be enjoyed and rated, since nostalgia is such a large part of the film. So if you're in the mood for a fun movie this weekend, or if anything I've said so far has interested you in Ready Player One, then go check it out. So yeah, I think that's all I really have to say about Ready Player One. This is a bit longer than what I usually do, so tell me if you prefer these longer subject-based videos compared to the short hot takes that I do. But yeah, so thank you everybody for watching. It means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and comment what movies or subjects you'd like to see me talk about next. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to turn on notifications. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Shout out to Sophia Fisher for this week's fan art of the week. If you'd like to have your art featured in a video, draw me, Chad the Sad, or one of my other characters, and tweet it at Tahukan TV on Twitter. Huge thank you to Patreon supporters Anonymous and Matt Porter. I really appreciate it.